Hey, don't you just want to like redo this whole thing? Redo what exactly? You know, like these shelves, this bed, this floor. Don't you just want to like redo this whole room again? Fine. A few months back I uploaded this video about me learning Blender in 11 days. Now, I didn't think that much about it. It would just be an out of the ordinary video and a really fun idea for this channel. Yeah, that video seemed to hit the jackpot with this channel. So for all those people that like seeing my Blender journey, buckle up because we're doing it again. And for that 30% that doesn't know what Blender is, let me give you a little introduction. Blender. Everybody loves Blender, right? That 3D open source software that lets you do practically anything that your PC can handle. Like this guy, or this Nintendo Switch, or this weapon. Like, when have you ever seen something like this on real life? Blender has been such an amazing software to use. It has helped the videos to have more life with the skits that I've been animating with my characters, and it opens up for even more things to do. One of them being recreating my real life room with an isometric perspective. If you don't know what an isometric room is, don't worry. It's basically a room with 3 walls missing and everything like super organized. See how easy that was to understand? People just like to put fancy words on everything nowadays. So with that out of the way, this is the room that we are recreating in Blender. My room. Ladies, one at a time, please. Alright, enough of that. Let's start off by setting our scene. If you want to achieve this exact angle for your own isometric room in Blender, it's as simple as opening Blender, hitting the number 0 on your number pad to look at the camera's perspective, select your cube, and enter edit mode, delete these 3 faces that are in front of you, and boom! You have an isometric perspective of a cube. And with this, you are set to start working with the ambience of your isometric room. Start doing your furniture like on how I did with my TV or my desk or my bed table. At this point, you're going to start to figure out what style you want to do with your modeling. It kind of resembles drawing in some way. Are you going to add a lot of detail to the models, or are you going with a low poly style? It's a personal preference, but for myself, I really wanted this isometric room to be as low poly as possible. I wanted it to be something you would see in an old retro game. That's why you see me using solid faces for furnitures. And honestly, modeling has become my favorite part in my Blender process by far. It's just such a wonderful feeling seeing your model without any texture already looking that good. And by having a low poly style, sort of, it's way more easy to see the flow of the polygons. And well, not because it's my favorite, it doesn't mean that I didn't have my trouble while doing it. When it was time to do the bed, I ran into a big problem while simulating it. Turns out that it was the goddamn pillows that were doing all of the trouble. So following the tutorial step by step like I was supposed to, I was finally able to do this. Impressive, right? That took like 3 hours to figure out. But right after what I thought was going to be my end with Blender, I hopped on back to finish up more things for my room, like my whole setup and even my Huey on Canvas Pro 12. A cool fact about my Huey on Canvas Pro 12 inside of Blender is that I created it in the weirdest way possible. Huey, please sponsor me. Moving on from that point, I also wanted to try to model the MF Doom mask that you guys see in the background of my videos, because I didn't do this one, I'm sorry, I found it on Sketchfab. This whole time of modeling the mask was nothing more than trusting the process, because yeah, the start can look pretty rough and bring down a lot of the expectations, but at the end, I absolutely loved how it looked with that retro low poly style. If you want to use it for yourself, you can check it out at my Sketchfab, link in the description. And to close this section, I finally grasped a little bit of what geometry nodes can do. Since I wanted to also replicate my cars collection in Blender, I made this model of a car, and with some tweaks in the geometry nodes tab, I can not only have it as more cars down the line, but as well give each one a different rotation so that it doesn't look that perfect. So with that, we're done with modeling, and we're moving on to my second favorite part, texturing. But this time, we're doing things a little bit different. Let me introduce to you all to procedural textures. Oh my god. Procedural textures are a much faster way to add details into a base color in Blender. Imagine you want to have a certain detail in a bed sheet? Well, boom! Now you have subtle squares in your design. Or how about adding that wood noise into a brown color? Boom! A noise texture with some distortion and some roughness, and you got yourself a pretty accurate wood texture. And these are not exclusive to just coloring. How about doing the transparency on my blinds so that it's not completely blocked? Or the somewhat detailed floor being a combination of a bricks texture with some noise and a normal map so it looks somewhat realistic. Honestly, this was a lifesaver for me. I love that Blender offers this as an option of texturing my models, because I don't know about you guys, but for me it's so frustrating switching between many softwares just to get a texture right. And I know this is not professional and I should learn how to do proper texturing and learn ambient occlusion and normal maps and blah 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 blah. Bro, I don't care, bro. This looks good to me. And it's really surprising on how far you can push these procedural textures. For example, if you see in the walls, I added a really tiny animations that happens every now and then. You can see it right there. Did you saw it? Honestly, I don't know why exactly I added these type of texturing into the walls, but it really helps it to not just be a plain wall with a subtle gradient. Another example on how powerful the procedural materials are is the neon lights that come from the PC and the keyboard. Not only was a task on its own to figure out how to get a perfect rainbow that goes all throughout the PC, but it's somehow even weirder on how this can turn into a loop. Turns out, there is a node in Blender that repeats the gradient your color ramp has how many times you wanted it to repeat, and with the texture coordinate you can move it so it resembles the loop of the real life one. Cool. And with the PC lights figured out, we replicated onto the keyboard so it has the same behavior. To finish this part, the only thing that was left was to texture the walls. Now I simply just don't want it to have a plain color with a little animation, so I gave it a gradient between two colors with some noise, and I think that adds more life into the final work. Now, don't take the idea that I use procedural textures on literally everything. There's also some parts where the base color is just fine. You can see what I'm referring to in these examples, where they tend to use flat colors with some variance here and there. These works honestly look amazing, and their perspective of detail is more into the model side instead of the texturing side, which is okay. Let's remember that the camera is not going to focus at those little details that sure, up close look beautiful, but from far away it's barely noticeable. So by giving the TV, the pillows, and many more things plain colors with some tweaks helps balance the overly done floor or the neon lights, and it helps more to the feeling that I was trying to achieve with this project. So with that, texturing is done. Honestly, this alone shows how much I've learned from Blender since last time, and a lot of that is done by the procedural textures I've did. But there's still a final step that we have to do to make this project really pop. A new step in my Blender journey that you too should be doing when making renders. Light work. If at some point you have done work on Blender or in any other 3D software and have wondered why doesn't your piece pop out more? If it has a clean topology and really good texturing, why does it not transmit something more? Well, it's more than likely that your scene is lacking good lighting. Now, this is no skill that you learn overnight and suddenly become a master at it, and I assure you that this is probably a skill that is always going to have a different perspective of approaching it and not really a unique way of doing it. For my scene in particular, I wanted it to have a certain vibe of coziness, a place that you can chill out and relax, a place where the low poly version of me can be seen just chilling on the computer. So as you can see, I used an overall blue tone for the scene with a procedural background that has a special animation. I also added a light blue hovering over the room and some lights coming from the TV, the monitor, and the light from the air conditioner. I really didn't want to add more lights to this screen since I thought the emission they gave was good enough, but after adding the lights and seeing the shadows they created, I think it works even more. And finally, the touch that gives an overall great ambience for this scene is the subtle blue fog. It may not look like much, but honestly, it pumps a bit more of that bluish tone I wanted. So, with lighting done, it was finally time to add our final details, which are a glowing line art for the room itself with a subtle animation, adding the rest of the stuff into my shelves, which I really don't have the time to be modeling all of those plushies, so yeah, not my proudest moment. Doing my best attempt at camera work, which again, I truly wanted it to resemble what I feel when I'm in my room just vibing, but as well, capture that feeling of this room being in a retro low poly style. But alas, you'll be the judge of that. So after modeling, texturing, lighting, and extra little details, this is the final work. What do you think? If you ask me, I think I still have a long way till I achieve what I truly want these type of projects to look like. Sure, I do love it and it sounds like a big jump from this, but I still think it could be better. I think if I focused more on having a great texture instead of doing procedural ones, I might get a different result and a better result. Nonetheless, I honestly achieved everything that I wanted with this piece, and if you looked at the earlier videos, you can see that I've used many of the assets that I did with this project, and I honestly love how much the background animation helps the whole composition of this animation. Like, look at that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Alright, that's enough. So overall, I'm pretty happy of how this thing turned out. Bro, what do you mean you're happy with this? Bro, there are walls missing. Where is our vinyl shelf? Where is the door for this room? I asked you for one thing, and you don't even finish it? No, wait, I'm sorry. No!